Virtual reality, or VR for short, is a technology almost everyone has heard of, with everyone at least trying it in a whole load of different contexts. But with Mark Zuckerberg's most recent Metaverse announcement, more questions being raised more than ever. Is it another fad like NFT and cryptos, or does it have more of a potential for humanity, like the Oasis in Ready Player One? Where else to start than VR's rocky beginnings?
The concept of virtual reality has been around since the 19th century, but only became reality in the 1980s, mostly for training military and government personnel. While this did massively help with showing the masses the potential of VR, it mostly only helped the development of the technology. The NASA View headset being the foundations of modern VR headsets. The unfortunate reality was, few actually got to try VR headsets, and it was only until the Nintendo Virtual Boy in 1995 where it came into the hands of consumers. Unfortunately, it was a commercial flop, mostly due to the comfort, poor colour range, and lack of games. The turn of the millennia brought more interest in VR. With this interest brought a major breakthrough in 2010, where the world would see the start of the VR modern day revolution. It was 17-year-old Palmer Luckey who was a revolutionary, with him creating the first ever 90-degree field of view, low latency, and built-in haptic feedback VR headset. Something unseen at the time. He spent the next 2 years refining his product, with him launching a Kickstarter in 2012 for the headset, with the intention that it'd be a DIY project where the buyer would build the headset themselves. Luckey also launched Oculus VR to facilitate the launch of the Kickstarter. In that same year, prominent and respected game developer John Carmack requested the headset, of which Luckey gave it free of charge. Carmack was so impressed with the headset that he went off to show the device at E3 2012, with it playing Doom 3 in VR, causing thousands to be interested and wanting the device. Luckey then dropped out to work at Oculus full-time. During the early foundation years at Oculus, Luckey showed CEO of Valve Gabe Newell the Rift, which started his firm interest in VR and prompted him getting Valve to invest further into the medium. By 2013, VR was well known by everyone in the gaming industry, and everyone wanted a piece of it. But it was more of a year of VR development, with Oculus sending out their unmanufactured devices to the early adopters, and Valve showing off their new lens design, which could make images appear more smear-free. This is where we enter 2014, where things began to really shape up. 2014 is when things began to really shape up for VR, and we enter the modern era. Sony announces Project Morpheus, named after the Matrix, a VR headset for the PlayStation platform. With that, Facebook bought Oculus that same year for $2 billion, further growing the interest in VR and Oculus into the larger world and not just the gaming market. This move was criticized by many backers, including Minecraft developer Marcus Pearson. VR was also brought further mainstream with the Google Cardboard, which, while helpful bringing VR to a wider audience, it left a lot of people disinterested, mostly due to 3 degrees of freedom. In March 2016, Oculus launched its first consumer VR headset, the Oculus CV1, bundled with an Xbox controller to control the headset with. In a bid to rival Oculus, HTC launched the HTC Vive, bundled with their own Vive Ward controllers. Later that year, Oculus revealed their Oculus Touch controllers, the objectively superior controller to the Vive Ward controllers. All while this is unfolding, however, controversy struck, with Palmer Luckey leaving Oculus after donating to a right-wing pro-Trump organization. To this day, Meta states that Luckey was not fired, but instead it was due to
That is a specific personnel matter that seems like it would be inappropriate.
In October 2016, Sony launched their PlayStation VR. Things did die down after that, however, mostly due to the lack of interest in large players in the VR industry and more of a focus on improving software for VR. However, a large break was around the corner. In 2019, Oculus launched the Oculus Quest 1, their first 6 degrees of freedom standalone headset. This was massive for VR, not only due to its wide range of features, hand tracking support, a standalone and a PC VR support, inside-out tracking and wireless PC VR, but the large barrier to entry of VR being the need for a high-end PC was gone, and people could play VR without the need for a PC or wires. The Quest wasn't the only thing to happen for VR in 2019. That same year, Valve released the Valve Indexed, the highest consumer-focused VR headset to date, with a large majority of its sales due to the announcement of Half-Life Alyx, the first ever AAA VR game released on PC. As 2020 rolled around and lockdown hit, a lot of people sought out for a VR headset, causing a massive bump in sales. However, neither Oculus or Valve could keep up with the massive need in sales, causing scalpers to sell both Quests and Indexes at a massive markup. Later that year, the Oculus Quest 2 released, with more graphics power, resolution, and battery power. It did come at the cost of comfort, however, as material use and quality went down, but so did the price of the headset. It was a major success and brought the Quest and VR to a mainstream audience, selling over 20 million headsets. In 2021, Facebook announced at their conference their rebranding as Meta and their vision for making a future metaverse, with VR going hand in hand with it. Some deemed it as a ridiculous concept, others deemed it as the potential future for not only VR, but also the future for humanity. With the announcement, a lot of people began to question about how VR could affect our future. Will it stay how it is? A niche thing in the gaming market and used to train pilots? Or will it grow larger and be a major competitor to flat screen gaming, with Meta not only being known as a social media powerhouse, but also a major competitor in the gaming market? Or will Mark Zuckerberg's virtual dream become a virtual reality, with people working, learning, and gaming all within this virtual space? Maybe the future will have more of a sinister outlook, with the metaverse being something more reminiscent of Ready Player One, with people using this metaverse to escape their real reality, with large corporate companies like the fictional IOI wanting to blind people with advertisements so badly they get a seizure. There is no definite answer to this. As much as Meta might invest billions of dollars, partly due to Facebook's falling numbers, people still need to adopt and accept the metaverse for what it is, along with it being not only a viable form of communication in gaming, education, or work, but a better alternative, as lots of people won't make the switch just because it's different. So I have decided to interview a large variety of people, all the same questions, and most importantly, focus on what they think the future of the metaverse holds for them and humanity.
I think I first heard about VR. It was either a YouTube video or we went to a friend's house and he had a VR setup there, and I thought that was pretty cool, so I wanted to play it.
VR has kind of always been a thing inside the gaming space. I kind of first heard it from when I was a kid watching YouTubers play a VR game every now and then on like the really old hardware, but I kind of really fell in love with it once I've had the opportunity to work on a few projects that involved VR.
When I was at the friend's house, I put on the VR headset and I'm there and I'm playing, I think the game was like Don't Die or whatever it is, like, you know, the one where you're like a spy and you die a lot on VR. I played that.
When I had the opportunity, a friend had a birthday party at this kind of event where there was like 1 or 2 VR headsets hooked up and we kind of took it in turns to play. Before then, I was kind of dabbling inside games development, but from that moment forward, I knew that is something I would want to work inside of.
So the first one I tried was at the friend's house. So I think it was like, I think it was made by Oculus. It was like an Oculus one, not the Quest one, but like it was like, I think no, it was the Oculus Quest one. That was it. And the one I own currently is the Oculus Quest 2.
I believe the first headset I actually owned was a HTC Vive. I'm not sure if it was a commercial model or a dev kit. It was given to me by the studio I was working at the time, so I'm not quite sure. But after the specific projects we worked on, I did manage to kind of like sneak it out of the studio and take it home. So
the price, because I feel like the price of it's very much, and I know some people can't afford it. So if they manage to get a cheaper model, like they manage to just, make it cheaper, that'd be great because a lot of people could buy it. That could be into a new market.
The big thing I believe with VR is its usage outside of like gaming, right? Don't get me wrong, there are very like use case scenarios you would use a VR. I know even some hospitals use them for surgeries that take place in different parts of the world, which is like amazing, right? It's being used for something cool. But what's kind of hindering it currently, but I don't think in the future, is the fact that we're not really seeing a use case used for it outside of well, what we're doing right now, sitting inside VR chat and talking or gaming or whatever.
And pretty cool announcement, I have to say. It was like, he said some things about the VR. I thought it was interesting, and that's how he got into the situation where I have one now.
As someone that has put myself in the kind of community and industry for quite a hot minute, I see it as the conglomerate gentrification of what already is. Because projects such as the quote metaverse already exist. I mean, we're technically sitting in one right now, and by extension, even the definition of metaverse has been used inside games and even media for quite a hot minute. I know there are some old choose your own adventure books that even would fall under the metaverse definition.
As my only gaming platform, because I can't do work in the VR, and the other thing I don't do, education. No.
Work, I'm not too... So for work, I'm not very sure if I would want that. If it, purely for the bias of, I think it'd feel a little dystopian to like put on a headset when you need to work. But for entertainment, for films, for gaming, for anything that is like of free leisure, I don't see a problem with it. And for a lot of things, there's a beneficial use. I know with some programs, you can even set up your own like movies theater inside a VR headset, which is really cool.
So I trust Meta. I know Valve is releasing a new one soon. That could be interesting. I mean, I know Meta's a complete, like, you know, the big conglomerate there. Like, they own the more of the market share, you know? And that's partly because of their VR, like, you know, the Oculus Quest, where you don't have to actually plug into your PC, unlike, obviously, unlike the Valve one.
Good. Purely not on a thing of, like, I exactly trust, like, Meta at all. But purely because in other industries, it's very common for a company to take essentially the forefront of providing this experience to like the consumers. Like take Apple, they're very much the forefront of phones and technology you might use for studying, work, or just as your everyday. Obviously, in places outside of America, it's more diverse, like Samsung, Huawei, etc., etc. Another example of an industry that has very like three main companies that are pushing the consumerism of the industry would be the film industry with Sony, Canon, and Red Magic with their different cameras. Obviously, with higher budgets, you got like IMAX cameras, but that's besides the point. It's obviously not something I can control. Now, with Meta being the company that is on the forefront of consumerism for the average person, I would actually argue that that's better off than maybe a different company. Now, because one of their priorities is data collection, it incentivizes them to produce products that are as consumer friendly. If it wasn't consumer friendly, then they had no one to data collect off.
So there we have it. DMTs are dumb, but there's still no collective or definitive answer on how people feel about the metaverse. Some people say their work wouldn't work in VR. Some people say they wouldn't want to wear a headset all day. It's too dystopian. One thing's for sure, if Meta wants to achieve the metaverse that they're promising, they need to improve on the technologies, not only in terms of mixed reality, but then also making sure it's more lightweight and affordable, as people mentioned in the interviews. It's unfortunately impossible to say with these things. Maybe VR will die again and become a niche hobby for gamers. Maybe the metaverse will become a reality and we'll all be a part of this collective hive mind all working inside the metaverse, with it being the key to immortality. It's impossible to tell. One thing's for sure, only time will tell.